Hello, testers. I want to very warmly welcome you on my presentation, which is Tough Love, Dev and QA. And maybe first a little bit about me. So my name is Tomek. I work as software development manager at Ocado Technology in Wrocław, Poland. But as it was said, I actually did plenty of things in my career because I was always eager to work with people and I was always a fan of agile methodologies. But for you today, important thing is that, yeah, I am a developer. Yeah, the bad guy. I am a developer on a testing conference. Come on, guys, we are enemies, right? So you can feel like I'm the wolf in the sheep's skin, right? Came developer, he will be talking some strange stuff. What can developer tell you, QAs, on a testing conference? Come on. So I was thinking about our relationships. Developers and QAs don't really get along very well very often because we are from a bit different worlds. And I was thinking of an example of a really tough love. And can you please raise your hand? How many of you have seen Big Bang Theory? Raise your hand. Perfect. Then for sure you know these guys. This is a tough relationship, right? Sheldon and Amy, they are both smart, both intelligent, but both stubborn. Both think that they are always right. And I think, yeah, developers and QA are somehow like this. But you know what the problem is? Then developers and QAs, we are both Sheldons, which is even worse. Because, come on, guys. Look at ourselves. What do we think about each other? What do you think when you talk with developer he doesn't understand? It's like, oh no. Oh, where did you come from, right? So don't worry, developers think the same because what do you think when you see me? Do you see a developer or rather a bug developer? Because I have an impression that QAs think that we developers in contracts, we have signed to produce bugs, not code, but bugs. Another bug introduced, yay, let's call it a day and go home. Well, guys, seriously, we don't want that. It doesn't work like this. And you're laughing from developers, but look at yourself. What do you think QA stands for? Quality assurance? For developer, it's a qualified annoyer. We write this beautiful code, and then you come and, you know, I write some feature, I polished it, and then comes a QA and says that if I press Shift K and escape, and in the same time I move the mouse with my leg, it actually throws an error. Who does that, guys? Who does that? And I remember my friend Tomek, who is a QA manager in Wrocław, on one workshop where we were together, he was preparing presentation what QA does. And he told a beautiful story how developers build sandcastles, and then QA comes and stomp on it. Destroys everything. And this guy was so happy when he was telling this that I understood at this moment that you destroyed this and you are proud of it, which is worse. In this moment, I realized that in every QA in the world, there is an evil, mean child sitting inside. You're laughing, but this is you. Okay, we laughed a little bit, but let's get a bit serious. Guys, we are from different worlds, but we have a shared goal. We have a common goal, and the important thing is that we can help each other. We can work together toward achieving this goal. And what a guy who is like developer and agile guy, let's say, what can tell you? What can be this common goal that we have all together? Obviously, it's working software. The working software. This is our common goal in every organization. We don't want to produce as developers buggy, crappy code. We want to produce great code with high quality, free of bugs. And this is what I'm going to talk about a little bit today. And if we are talking about working software, we are talking about agile, let's talk about some agile. So, the one of core things in agile is obviously the communication. The problem is that this communication can sometimes turn into something much worse, which is miscommunication. And it's even worse than lack of communication because it causes frustration. And what you have to think about is because we have different backgrounds, different education, the big question for you when you are dealing with developers, for example, is to talk so everyone can understand you. And I will tell you a bit more why developers don't understand you a bit later, but talk so everyone can understand you. Just something like this, in general, this won't work. You have to give clear communication and understand that sometimes this second person, it was told about communication. You send some kind of the message. You have to think what are the expectations of this second side, right? You have to understand what is this person, what is this person's background and how he understands everything. Okay, the second thing is cross-functionality. The core concept in agile methodologies, right? Very easy on paper, very difficult in reality. Why? Well, I was doing a lot of Java interviews, a lot. And one of my favorite questions always was, well, how do you test your code as developer? And you know what the answer was very often? I won't do that, like talk to the hand, right? I am developer, I write features. Testers do testing, BAs do analysis. That's how the world works. Well, and you are agile, right? No? No. Well, on the other side, because there's a misconception about cross-functionality, cross-functionally does not mean that you have to do all the work. It doesn't mean that you have to be expert in everything. It means that if you are a QA, sometimes you need to leave your comfort zone and do something which maybe you don't like, which maybe is not in the area of your expertise, but it's required for your team to succeed. You won't be as good coder as developer. You won't be as good BA as BA. You don't do the analysis as well. And these guys won't be ever as good testers as you are. But sometimes you have to leave this comfort zone and do something which moves your team forward, even if you don't like it. And this is true for cross-functionality, that you are not afraid to step out of the crowd and do something extra, do something which is not yours, but it's needed. So, question, how many of you can code? Please raise your hand up. Oh, most of you actually. And how many of you can test? All of you, like on a good concert, yeah? All hands in the air. That's perfect, but I don't know if you've noticed, I raised my hand twice. Why? Because I think I can do testing. All this testing pyramid, unit, integration system, smoke, load, stress testing, performance, equivalency classes. This is your secret knowledge, right? And somehow I know it. How come? And guys, I'm ready to tell you my secret, just like in the Sixth Sense movie. I'm ready to tell you my secret. Well, I didn't learn this on university. 5 years of studying. Only 1 year, one subject, one class was about testing on computer science. I didn't learn it on university. Well, actually, I passed a special training. Well, it wasn't exactly like this, like Yoda and Luke, but it was kind of similar. It was like close, yeah? It required a lot of nurturing me and taking care after me. So what I did was actually working with a QA on everyday basis for 1.5 years, desk to desk, in one team. Impossible. Oh, how come? Yes, this is what was happening. And we know what was the best? That something which is nicely called mentoring emerged. And what is more, it was mutual mentoring. Because I had no idea how to test at the beginning. But I was working with the QA, and I didn't know how to test something. He was coming to me and telling me, you have to do it like this, you have to check this. And later on, I was working on this on myself and asking only harder questions. Did I cover anything? You know what? You know what I mean. And the same was on the other hand. When my QA wanted to understand some piece of code, maybe write a piece of code, he was coming to me and asking questions. So I was growing as a tester. I won't ever be as good in testing as the QA, but I was growing. I could do this. And our QA was growing as a developer. He wasn't coding all the time, but if he needed something, he didn't have to wait for anyone. He was just there, ready to do the work. So, whenever developer comes to you, you say this. Help these guys. I told you, we don't learn this at university. If you have a developer who is a fresh graduate, he has no idea how to test. You have the idea how to test. If the guy worked several years in company that is not testing, this guy does not know how to test. You are the experts. You have the knowledge. So yes to all. Not like loser. You don't know it, you're like, loser. You don't know how to test it. Come on, that's so easy. We often say that we are technical people and we think that if we know something, everyone should know it because it's so obvious. For other people, it's not. This is why I was talking about this miscommunication. Sometimes when you say something, it's not understood by the second side because they simply have no idea what you're talking about. Okay, how to start it? Where is this first common ground when developers and QAs can actually meet? And for me, these are unit tests. Unit testing is done by developers. Developers write unit tests, period. It's a must in a project. In a healthy project, it's simply a must. If you don't have unit tests, you have like problem. So let's not dig into it. Developers do it. QAs don't write unit tests. They can help with this, but they don't write it. And if you look at some unit tests, I can show you I can prove you how developers cannot do it. And if you look, for example, at this test, this is a test that a guy with 8 years of experience applying for senior Java developer position wrote on pair programming. You know what this test checking? Nothing. Literally nothing. It's creating some kind of variable, incrementing it 5 times in a loop, and checking if this is 5. It's checking if Java works. Java language, if works. So this is like, this is stupid test. And when I told this guy that, come on, this is not checking anything, he was like, what? It has assertions. It's a good test. No, it's not. Developers simply sometimes don't have even sense of what testing means. And this is something common. So you see, developers need help with that. And developers need help from people who knows what quality is. And who are the guys who know what quality is? You guys. So as a developer, I'm admitting this. Yeah, this is like what you wanted to hear today, right? Developers cannot test, at least some. So they require your help with this. If you look at other problems that developers have, developers are lazy. So what they often do is they choose the very simplest path to complete something, which is obviously wrong. So what I have seen in the code plenty of times is something like this. You as QAs know that validation should be as precise as possible. That if something goes wrong, your test immediately tells you about it. It gets read, right? And developers, just when they have no idea what they want to test, they just test if something is there. For example, like this. Assert not null. They wanted user from the database, they got a cucumber. Yeah, test is green. Right? Great idea. And they are doing this because they think that this is enough. Test is green, coverage is increasing. What do you want more from life? This is a quality code, right? So this is a problem. And again, if you even look at this test I previously showed you, there is one more thing that is problematic in here, in my opinion. You can guess what? Even the name of this test. This is actually happening if you are using Eclipse or IntelliJ. You know these tools? You are using this, maybe? So, yeah, I see nodding heads. So when you generate a test for your code, it usually adds prefix test and put the method name. And this is how tools work, tools for developers. You as QAs know that we are not testing methods, we are testing behaviors. We don't care what methods are there. We are testing if we have this expected behavior in our code, the business logic. Developers sometimes don't know about it. And if the tool is helping them like this, instead of focusing what they should actually test, what they should think about, they're thinking about what this method does, what code is there so I can now cover it, which is complete misconception. So the easy trick for this, which you can sell to your developers, even on Friday when the conference is over, is, for example, to use this notation for test name, this pattern for naming test method. Should do something when something. When you try to name the test properly with this pattern, it actually turns on your brain and you start thinking about what you actually want to test. So this is a simple hint, but it's making unit tests much better. Sell it to your developers if they don't use it, because they won't figure it out themselves, probably. If they think that they are doing good work, Make them aware that there are some better practices. They can work differently. They require you to do it because no one else can tell them about it. Okay, so the question is, oh sorry, one more thing, because developers are very focused on clean code, Uncle Bob, etc., but they forget that clean tests are also very important. And the QA, developers are always focused on code. From university, everyone tells them, write code, learn languages. But they don't focus on tests. You are the guys who are focusing on tests. Well, I ask you a lot. I ask you to go to these developers, which you know they are idiots. They don't have idea what they are doing, right? So I ask you to go there and work with them and help them and nanny them. So what's in it for you? Why you should focus on unit tests if this is very low level? As QAs, you are probably focusing on more higher level, right? It's like business scenario and stuff like this. So what's in it for you? 3 arguments. First thing, unit tests are the best documentation. If they are named properly, if they are well maintained, they give you straight answer. If something goes wrong, where is the problem? You don't have to debug, you don't have to analyze this stuff. You have it clean out there in some report or something like this. You have the information, so you don't have to look for it. It means less work for you. And less work for you are lazy people in IT. Less work for us is always good. So this is less work for you. But we want more. Second thing is finding bugs early. How many times you had the situation that you are having some bug and it turned out that it was some stupid mistake like putting somewhere 1 instead of 2 or plus instead of minus? This eliminates it. You don't have to focus on stupid, simple bugs, and you can focus on like proper exploratory testing for complex business scenarios instead of wasting your time on the stupid little mistakes that can be eliminated much earlier. And I don't have to tell you that finding bugs early is much cheaper than finding bugs late, right? So it again means less work for you, which is even better. And the third thing is testable design. If you write code that is prepared to be tested, from this code you have testable classes. You have testable services, testable modules, components, up to the very top where you have entire system which is ready to be tested. Because again, how many times you have spent hours setting up the system to be tested, preparing the right data? Because this was a mess. It was not easy to use. When you go with the testable design, from the very bottom to the top, you get testable system at the end. And again, this means less work for you. And I remember talking with QAs, they are always having problems with, this system is so bad, I have to work 5 hours to just prepare it to do any testing. Less work for you, again. So this all sounds really good. So in total, having unit tests simply saves your time, saves money, and saves the nerves. And these are your nerves, very often. So it's good for you, right? It's like, woohoo, we should have unit tests. Okay, so final thoughts. Unit tests are great, but as I told you, developers are not particularly good in writing them. They haven't learned it, they don't know it, they need you. So my question is for today, you will laugh. QA, quality assurance. And I have to tell you, I don't like this word because assurance is like so strict, you know? I assure. If something is bad, I cut it, kill it with fire or something like this. I assure, right? Like dictature. And what I wanted to think about yourself for a moment, you will laugh because this word is epic, but it's the best for me. It's quality evangelist. Told you. I know it's so epic, but let me explain what I mean by this. What I mean is, don't just find bugs. It's not your job. Try to prevent them. The cheapest bug is the best bug is this one which never occurred. Prevent them instead of finding them, instead of sending reports, oh, there's a bug, send report. Work with the people so they don't make them. Instead of just testing, you know, like red, green, report, go home. Build the culture. Build the culture. I told you that developers are not the best in testing sometimes. Build this culture, make them aware that quality is very important, and make them aware why quality is important, why it saves also their time, why should they care about it. And not only developers, the same with BAs, with managers, with everyone. Culture in our organization is what defines our organization. It's the most important thing. You can have any projects in any technologies, and if you don't have the right culture in your organization, you will fail with this project, even if you use brand shiny tools. And it's in your hands as QAs to share the knowledge about quality, because you are the experts in it. Developers don't know it. Managers, they've heard something about quality, the risk, whatever. They have to understand what true quality is, how to achieve it, and why it is important. So, question for you is simply to be open. Be open, talk with people, build this culture, share your skills. You are experts in quality, others are not. And without your help, they won't make it far. So, question for you is, share these skills, because guys, we have a common goal, we are one team, and we work together. Together we can succeed. And this is what I wish you today.
Ask some questions from you, and let me read the first one. Do you also have a similar presentation for developers conferences? If so, then what is the difference?
No, I don't have similar presentation for developers because I have similar interview for developers. Like when developers are coming, I always ask them about testing. For me, testing is one of the parts of being a developer. And if someone doesn't understand that, probably he's a poor developer. I have also presentations for developers about testing tools like, I don't know, BDD, mutation testing, stuff like this. And I'm talking about it. But developers are usually focused on tools very much, so they don't like this like idea, more they are focused on tools. So I'm trying, when talking about tools, also like put the similar message, which is like build the culture, take care about quality, communicate with people, because those are universal values that really make your organization work well. That's a good question, because I don't know any automation engineer that is not able to code. And I don't know, on the other hand, I know developers that cannot test, but I don't think they are good developers. So I think this automation engineer is kind of a very mixed role. It has to be part developer, part tester. I wouldn't say if this is one or another. It's somewhere in between. With every role, so this is cross-functionality for me. You're never just like a well-defined role. If you have like super well-defined role, you should go to corporate world 20 years ago when you were doing like just, you do your job from here to 9 p.m. to 5 p.m. in that direction, right? Now, nowadays, actually, in agile world, you have to be like open to different things. You have to do different things. I know automation engineers who are doing kind of, just as was said before by Lucian, they are working with customer, communicating a lot. So I wouldn't say this is one or another. It's always somewhere in between. Thank you, Oliver. Thank you. Where would you start mutual mentoring in a global organization stretching over multiple time zones? Oh, this is multiple time zones. I work in this environment. It's like plus 100 to complexity. First of all, the question is how the organization is structured. Do you have like, also the teams are kind of spread around the world, or the teams are co-located? If they are spread around the world, it's difficult. I can tell you how we try to do it at Ocado, because we are in 5 locations, and we never do separated team. Teams are always co-located because it's super hard to do it otherwise. So the best mutual mentoring in any mentoring is when you work simply on everyday basis. And this is kind of an organizational change. If QA sit in, I don't know, States, developers sit in Europe, and business sit in, I don't know, UK, how you can do mentoring if you don't have even tools to communicate properly, because you have to use video calls, all stuff like this, emails, chats. It's never working. So first things first, when you have people in one place, you just simply encourage them. And I think this is the role of a leader. Like I was team leader and I'm a dev manager. It's not a technical role, it's a purely organizational role. When you make the people, you try to make people become better. You motivate them to become better. And if you encourage, if you give people to mentor each other, they usually do it because people want to grow. It's in us, it's inside us. We want to become better and better. Okay, the first one is pretty quick to answer. in previous version of this presentation, instead of QA, I was saying quality assistance, but then evangelist came to me as a better word. Because assistance, yeah, this is good. You assist, you help this person, but evangelist is kind of a word focused much more on going external, of helping not only in your team, not only to the people you work with, but to general, you want to improve the entire organization. You want to build this quality in your organization. Because even if you are a perfect team, but you have a stupid manager, it sometimes doesn't work, right? Everyone needs to understand this is the way the organization will have to work. But yeah, QAs should be assisting developers for sure, because developers, as I told you, they are not always the guys who have the knowledge. So QA's help on everyday basis is very, very important. So quality assistance, big yes.